And I believe we are live with our 19th office hours. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure just yet because it's our first time using YouTube.
It's your first time using YouTube ever.
Sorry, YouTube stream, and it just came up. There's like a 20-second delay. Anyways, how you doing this week, Alex?
Pretty good. Doing all right. You got a new headset or?
I did. I think I had it last week too.
Oh, okay. Cool. I probably wasn't paying attention.
A little studio setup here.
That's good. Audio sounds good. Crisp.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone. I'm not actually even sure if anyone's here in the chat today. Feel free to say something in the chat if you're here. But yeah, things are good. Except the market's not really behaving this morning, I think.
Oh, really? The mic is not behaving? It sounds good here.
The market, like, the price of Bitcoin and such.
Right. That is true. Maybe a bit disappointing, given that this Coinbase IPO is on the horizon. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Are those Coinbase employees going to dump their Coinbase shares for US dollars? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I saw a funny tweet about just bringing up the fact that there were those employees who left, those like 60-something employees who left last year.
Yeah.
After the no politics shenanigans went on at Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough blow.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough blow. Well, you got to stand on your principles, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It was an expensive statement that they made.
That is true. I actually can't see the chat now because we're only in Zoom. So I'm curious if people are actually in the chat and if there's any. You said there was a delay, right? Maybe people can comment on that. Well, I guess they won't know if it's a delay.
There is. It looks like there is some viewers. We got we got Crypto Cage and we've got Pershing.
Oh, nice.
Pershing would like to know when Nansen IPO.
Oh, give us a couple of years. Might take a but we'll try to make it faster than Coinbase did.
There you go. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, from Alex himself. A commitment to the people.
To the people of Nansen.
Shall we dive in on some dashboards here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Where do we want to start this week?
I'm thinking we could have some fun with hot contracts as usual. You might need to enable screen sharing so I can actually pull up my screen here. We're excited to see if the resolution is better in Zoom versus Crowdcast like we've been using before.
You should be able to share now.
Indeed I am. Let's see. Alrighty. So can you see my screen?
So beautiful. So crisp.
So crisp. High resolution.
High alpha.
You will only see higher resolution from Nansen going forward. Everything's going to be higher resolution. In fact, there's some high resolution dashboards being shipped tomorrow. Some of your most beloved dashboards will have a new skin and they will be given new life and you will enjoy them much more than you have. So that's going to be good. I'm not going to mention which dashboards exactly, but you'll find out while you explore Nansen in your daily routine. Maybe we can start with hot contracts.
Let's do it. Here's a question for you. When you look at hot contracts, do you always start with 7 days, or do you ever change the max contract age?
Yeah, so I actually just look at 7 days. I think it's fun to see what's new, and I think a lot of other people do the same thing. I've tried expanding it to say 14 or 30, but you often get much more Uniswap pools and stuff like that, which I think is a little bit less interesting. How about yourself?
I mix it up. Depends.
So it's up here that maybe people don't know that, but up here, max contract age, that's just the days since the contract was deployed. So if you put 7, that means we will filter out so that you only see contracts that have been deployed in the last 7 days. But you can change it to 30, and boom, it's pretty snappy as well. Snappier than some of the other dashboards, at least. You can see the last 30 days here now, right? So you see like a different list because some of the other ones were filtered out. You can go back to 7. And by default, it sorts by 1 hour, right? And so you get to see what's hot right now in the last hour. So there's like $2 million going into liquidity, the stability pool. And actually, I think if we sort by 1 day, it's still liquidity, but it's a different pool, the active pool. And then there's inflow on 7 days, where you see liquidity again, but community issuance. That's pretty funny, actually. Like these 3 are kind of dominating the whole rack here, liquidity. So maybe that's a good project to look at. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, 860 mil has flowed in. I think it's definitely justified that
That's pretty wild.
that we peak in. But 860 plus 400 plus 200, they're chilling.
That's more than a bill.
Well said.
That's nice.
Yeah, let's dive in on that.
Yeah, so liquidity.app, right? I have to connect wallet. Actually, I think I'll go a little wild here and actually connect my wallet. Let's see if you can dox me. So what is liquidity?
It's not so secret. We can see connected as 0x4A7C.
I know, right? Well, that's a good start. You can see me live trading. Also have the ETH balance there, so the skilled Nansen hunters should be able to track this address down.
This is like a Logan Paul docs when he self-doxed his wallet on that stream.
Yeah. This one is pretty public, so no secrets there. So I'm not going to claim I'm an expert on this project. Like many of the other projects that we look at in this live stream, we don't really know what we're talking about. We just find them in our dashboards and then we play around with them, and very often we get corrected in the chat. So feel free to correct us this time as well. But my understanding, at least high level, of liquidity is that it's basically a stable coin credit facility, if you will. So it's maybe a little bit similar to MakerDAO. And you can effectively open a trove, which to me sounds a bit like a vault, where you lock up some collateral in the form of Ether, and you take on debt in the form of LUSD. And you also have a collateral ratio, so that if Ether tanks, I guess you get liquidated. I think the thing, maybe it's one thing that people don't know is that there's like a fee when you first open a trove and you borrow. And I think the fee changes depending on the price of LUSD, or somehow that gets updated. And there's also a redemption fee when you want to go back, when you want to get your Ether back again. So that right now it looks like the round trip is like 1%. You see the TVL here, so 408 mil. I guess that's actually we can maybe cross-check that. Maybe that's the active pool that corresponds to. Not 100% sure. And you can also see, well, LUSD in a stability pool. Yeah, okay, there you go. 205, right? 200, yeah, so that's roughly the same. Little margin of the little difference there could just be like a slight difference in the pricing of the decimals, pretty much. So around 200 mil sitting there. And then there's a stability pool where you can, so after you borrow LUSD, what do you do with it? You can lock it up into the stability pool and you can get an APY of 208%. As always, none of this stuff is investment advice. We're simply looking at a dApp on Ethereum that we discovered by browsing through the hot contracts dashboard on Nansen. So you can lock up the LUSD in a stability pool. You get some yields on that, and you can see how much. And the yields come in the form of this LQTY token, which presumably is the governance token. And there's about 32 million tokens left in this farm. But you can also click on this farm tab up here. Look at that. Who's farming? You can see 1.2-ish LQTY tokens in this farm that are going to be paid out. I think it's over 6 weeks. And this farm is different because here you're basically taking your LUSD and you're providing it as liquidity on Uniswap. And you are then taking the LP tokens and then locking them up into this farm. And that generates LQTY tokens, the governance tokens. The yield is a bit lower here. So I think most of the pros are hanging out in this pool over here. And this one is also one-sided, so you don't have any impermanent loss in this one. But this one, of course, you do have some IL because you're basically providing liquidity for LUSD against Ether. So yeah, that's pretty much that project, I think.
Do you have any insights on how the peg is maintained?
Not really. I mean, I think so. First of all, I think the borrowing and redemption fees I think are updated to reflect, to make it more attractive or less attractive to mint LUSD. I think that's one way to do it. I'm not really sure beyond that. And of course, there is like a collateral ratio, which presumably involves liquidation if things get out of hand. But I think the peg is primarily controlled by those parameters. But maybe there are people in the chat who can inform us about how it actually works.
I mean, it's pretty crazy that there's, 200 mil in the stability pool, and there's still almost 200% APY on effectively like a stable coin, a single-sided stable coin. Yeah,
it's pretty weird. But I mean, you have to also think about how do people get this LUSD token. So there's two ways to get it. Either you mint it, right? That means you lock up Ether and you take on some risk. Or if you don't, I mean, you do, of course, take on some risk of getting liquidated if Ether suddenly tanks. But you also lock up Ether, which has like some degree of opportunity cost. And of course, you can't borrow against the full amount of your Ether, right? Because there's a collateral ratio threshold. So it's not like super capital efficient as such, but that's one way you get the Ether. And also it's worth keeping in mind that like the gas price is very high. So I think the first time I tried to make a Trove, my transaction failed and I paid like $300 for a failed transaction. And so like the threshold isn't like super low to jump in here and start like just start up a new Trove and get some of these LUSD tokens. Then that's the first way to get the LUSD. The other way is to buy it on an exchange. And so we could just check, what's the going rate for an LUSD token these days on Uniswap. So if I go here, LUSD, and I say maybe I want to buy, let's say I want to pay with USDC, right? And I want to buy like, I don't know, 10,000. Okay, so I get $9,600. So, this, which should be a stable coin, let's say, is already at a premium, right? At least with that, yeah, and it's pretty liquid at this point. But it's like, 3 point, or you can flip it around and say, if you have, it's about 2% there if you're selling it, right? And if you're buying it, so it's like you have to pay a 4% premium.
When you're aping into these projects for research, how are you monitoring, like, or how are you kind of keeping track of all the different numbers? Like, do you have a spreadsheet going as you ape in and like you're kind of calculating these different things, or is it just you're kind of calculating it on the fly, keeping it in your head, and then shifting some stuff around?
I mean, it's the simple answer here is probably like to have a spreadsheet where you just measure how much capital did I deploy, how much yields have I earned to this point, and then divided by some time unit is probably a good start. It's not super accurate, but it's probably better than nothing. So you can wait a little bit, check the exact time that you deployed, and like look at it over a 10-minute, 15-minute period, or 1 hour, or even one day or several days, and you can it's not very hard to calculate the APY from that. That's probably what I would recommend people doing, and that's kind of a generic approach that you can do with anything, because it's kind of empirically calculated. It doesn't require you to kind of understand exactly how the yields are calculated on this farm. You just like see what the actual accrued yields amount to in US dollars, and then you divide that over the amount, and then you basically annualize it.
Should we dig in on liquidity on the dashboards, either in token god mode or?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's. What should we look at? LUSD, maybe. I don't know if the other one is here. I'm not actually looked at these, I think, yet. Let's see. So now I just spun up token god mode for LUSD, and doing the same for LQTY. Let's see here, 15% of all LUSD on exchanges, and it's basically all on Uniswap. Not too surprising, given that there's this farm that requires you to deposit it to Uniswap. And if you look at where the tokens are going, of course, they're going into the stability pool. But some of it's also going into that Uniswap pool. So this is like, it's very clear to see, like, what are people doing with their LUSD? Pumping it into the stability pool or into the Uniswap pool. And it's kind of nice, actually, because this measures a form of like relative demand. This is like, what is that, 17.5% of the total. So like 80% plus are kind of choosing the stability pool, and only about 17% are choosing the other. Now I'm saying percent out of the total capital. So that's kind of an interesting measure. And it's like, there's probably a good reason why the 200 million are in that pool, right? Because the yields are better.
In order to get the pool 2 rewards, you then need to stake your Uniswap tokens, right?
That's right.
So I would say like kind of a next step we could also look at is getting that contract address, putting it in token god mode custom, and then seeing where that gets staked.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. And so maybe we can drill down in both pools and see if we see some familiar faces. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to point out, you can also look at just top transactions. You can see some smart money just minting tokens, right? So you see this big transaction here, $13 million was minted because it comes from the 0 address. That's where typically tokens get minted. And it goes into the Smart LP's wallet, and they pump it right into the stability pool. And another Smart LP doing the same thing. Looks like they actually did it in 2 goes, because there's a 5 mil transaction here, and then 7.4 that they pump into the stability pool afterwards. You also have this Smart Whale that does the same thing, 4.5 mil. And they're all going to the stability pool, interestingly. So maybe if we keep it a bit simple first, we can look at the stability pool, which is the most like attractive pool, at least from the capital perspective. So we can drill down on depositors. So there's 200 million deployed. Now we want to check, what does that distribution look like of the 200 million that's been deposited? Oh, by the way, that's why it said 200 mil on there. If you noticed, it says 200 mil LUSD instability pool. That is true because it's the 200 million tokens, right? But the token is at a premium, and that's why the hot contracts was showing slightly more than 200 million.
Right.
So that's 205, right? That's the mystery there. Okay, sorry for jumping around a bit here. Let me get back. So here we go. This is a breakdown of the stability pool where the 200 million LUSD have been deposited. And, you know, we saw these guys earlier. Wow, this is like the exact same amount. That makes me think that this is the same entity. Interesting.
How much did they put in ETH? Did we see that?
We can maybe check afterwards if we look at Wallet Profiler with ETH, but this is just in US dollars, in LUSD. So it's 13 million. Kind of interesting. We can look at those afterwards. I would guess it's the same. I mean, that's like an oddly specific number.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, maybe it's the same entity. And then we have this whale that we saw earlier. We see another one here. So there's clearly like pretty high density of smart money.
In large volume too. That's
like, like several million, right? Another smart LP here. Lim Zero, hopefully watching the stream. Shout out to Lim Zero.
The other thing to note is when you look at the last out column, not that many people have pulled out yet.
That's right.
Some people have started, but most people who have pulled out still have a significant chunk in there.
Yeah. Let's see, NFT Maxi. Don't know who this is, but they used to have this ENS address and now they don't anymore. That's what the little asterisk indicates. 10k.eth. Yeah, a lot of smart money in this, clearly. So this is maybe a little bit of an alpha leak if you are not already in this pool. Not financial advice, but probably interesting to look at. So that was the first pool. So maybe we should look at the other pool as well, the Uniswap one. So I'll just close this for now, and I'll get back to those smart LP wallets. But you wanted to show this kind of trick, right? Where you can, because this is itself an LP token. So this is a little bit convoluted if you don't know this process. But the other farm, you have to deposit LUSD into the Uniswap pool, which gives you an LP token. And that LP token you can put into a farm. And so this pool, the Uniswap pool, is itself a token. So what we're going to do is just grab, we're going to grab this token. And I'm just going to do that from Etherscan. So I'm just going to copy that here for now. And I'm going to look at, actually the easiest way to do it now is probably to just go to token God mode custom. So token God custom lets you plug in any token, even if we haven't whitelisted it. So it's perfect for things like LP tokens and so on. So if I just copy this in here, keep in mind this is the LP token address, and I hit enter. This is going to create spin up the token God mode view for this LP token. And why do I do that? Because I want to find where these LP tokens are sitting. And presumably they're sitting in the farm, right? The Liquidity farm. And we will see if I'm correct by scrolling down here. And indeed, 99% of all these LP tokens are locked in the Liquidity ETH LUSD staking pool. And so now I'm going to go one level deeper and say these 789,000 LP tokens, what's the breakdown on that contribution? What are the addresses that actually deposited these LP tokens into that farm? And I open this up. It looks like maybe someone already did this before me because it was already cached. So maybe some smart people in the stream are doing the same thing as us. And here you also see some smart money. So probably not a bad pool to be in either. Keep in mind now these tokens, like the unit is like LP tokens. So the unit is not very understandable. It's not clear to understand like how much US dollar this corresponds to. In a newer version, of course, we're going to add like a USD denoted column as well. But for now, we have to just look at kind of the relative proportion. And so even in like the top 10, there's like 3 smart money addresses. I think I'll in the background. I think I'll bring back the other pool that I closed, because I want to see if there's like any overlap. If we just see the same addresses. I'll just load that in the background. We can click through this though. We see some. Look at that, VFAT. Always a good sign. It's pretty ridiculous.
How have we still not labeled them as smart money?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. we need to flag we need to give feedback to the team. This guy needs to be labeled smart money. VFAT himself. Oh, look at that. I wonder if that's the one and only.
The guy who's bidding on the people pleaser piece.
I was speaking to him just a few hours ago. Shout out to Vasrel Poor if he's watching. Let's see. Any other interesting ones? Oh, wait. Did you see what I saw? What is that?
Who is that?
Who is that?
Doxed.
4:30?
Small fish.
4:30. Oh, man. Inception.
Okay. One thing I saw, if you go back a page, was a family.eth. Wait, maybe go forward a couple pages. Like an interesting ENS address. Like go
the other way around?
Yeah.
All right.
There.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, that's cute.
That's cute. Yeah. Well, you could look at that if you wanted, but anyway.
Aren't the one character ENS addresses pretty pricey?
I don't know, actually.
I think it's like a few K for 1 year.
Let's try it. Too short.
How did he?
Wow, maybe it's because some of these emojis actually are several characters.
Oh.
Not that one though. But that's weird. Maybe it has a space in it. This is a bit of a digression, but like kind of interesting.
The people need to know.
We must find out. I think there's a space here. No.
Well, that's a 4-family one. So maybe.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Maybe it's composed of.
Wow, that's a good alpha leak. So you have to find the emojis that are composed, and then you just buy them. Wow.
Oh, but it's the 3 character ones that are the most expensive. Then the 4 characters, and then 5 up. I think it's the same.
So. Yeah, let's check some of these. Is that the same? That's the one I have. No, family. This. Unavailable. Yeah. I guess someone just snatched them all up, don't you think? They're pretty cool. Anyway. That's down the rabbit hole. How do we get there? We started with we started with the hot contracts and ended up looking at emojis on ENS domains. But yeah, just to kind of refresh your memory on how we got there. We were looking at the top inflow ones, and we noticed that liquidity is basically all over the place. And I think it would be nice. I mean, not just nice. It's like to the point where we should definitely have it. We should just have links to the websites like directly, right? Because now you have to figure out like what the hell is liquidity and how do you find the right address for it and so on. So stay tuned. We will eventually add URLs to the websites as well for these entities. But yeah, so we found liquidity. We looked at that a little bit, and we looked at the LUSD token and also the liquidity token itself. Oh, actually, we didn't look at the liquidity token. This is the liquidity token. Basically, very little. It's kind of ironic, but it's very little liquidity on liquidity because people are probably just snatching them up. And there's a lot of liquidity tokens locked up in like community issuance and things like that. This one is poorly labeled. Like this, we need to. It says token billionaire, which is true because it has tons of tokens, but it's obviously some kind of treasury. So making a note to fix that.
Well, one thing to looping back to top depositors that we can take a look at.
Yeah.
So there's a couple reasons why you would check the staking contract for the pool 2.
Mm-hmm.
Usually pool 2s have outsized returns, like, you know, in the order of like several thousand%. Sometimes in like tens of thousands of percentages in the beginning at the very least. And so whoever gets in first usually gets an outsized return on like tokens allocated to them. So one of the interesting things to check here would be when they got in. So instead of checking by total amount deposited, you can check when they first came in.
Yeah, the deployer was first. Makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then there's a medium DEX trader, mulraney.eth. Big elite DEX trader here. And ETN, smart money.
There you go, Etienne, maybe.
Etienne, but probably it's like pun with ether.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. But he bailed. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Although he was in for pretty large amount at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He probably, right. Well, he bailed more
Let's
recently.
see if he also jumped into this one. Well, Mulraney at both pools.
Mm-hmm.
Milli DEX trader. Oh, actually, you know, I have to, maybe that's something I should have mentioned. Like, how did I discover this pool? It's because I have an alert on Milli DEX trader. And clearly, like within 16 minutes after people started aping, or 20 minutes after people started aping into this pool, I get my on-chain notification through Nansen. This is true. I'm not making this up. And suddenly they're aping into some address that I didn't know. And then that meant that, you know, within 20 minutes, I could also ape in.
So maybe we can guess who that DEX trader is then. If Milli DEX trader was 3 minutes after him, this large DEX trader who came in size.
Oh, the elite DEX trader?
No, just the DEX trader who came in
this
with 10
guy.
mil there.
This one. Wow. Yeah. Maybe that's how they know, right?
I've got some ideas.
I might have some ideas too. But yeah, can't leak too much alpha. Oh, look at that. Isn't she like an advisor? She's like an advisor, I think.
Maybe.
Project.
Ashley or something.
Interesting.
Sorry, no docs.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's on chain, so what can you do? isimpmolly.eth. Yeah, I agree with you. It is actually quite interesting to look at the first in, because it almost feels like you can like replay how it happened. You know, you can see the information flowing through the social network around the blockchain.
So the other thing to check here would be checking top recipients from this contract. And the reason you would check that, well, it kind of depends on the structure of the contracts, but you can see how much reward tokens they've gotten.
Yes.
So maybe we check top recipients of Liquidity or whatever the reward token is.
Yeah. So now we're looking at Liquidity, and maybe we can look at that pool too. Or it's not really a pool two because it's like not the governance token itself, but let's call it a pool two for now. So click recipients on this one, and we can see who actually claimed Liquidity tokens. Of course, many people won't have claimed because the gas price is very high. But here we will be able to see who has claimed, especially the ones that bailed, the people that took their Liquidity tokens and ran. And there's a good example, ETN, right? That we saw he already bailed and he got his 478 Liquidity tokens. Now, what did he do with those tokens? Well, we can click the profiler and find out. Maybe he dumped them, or maybe he held them. Maybe he staked them. Who knows? We will find out shortly. These dashboards just have to load first. 0. So he got rid of them. How did he get rid of them? It looks like he sold them on Uniswap. Or, let's see. We can sort by time and get the, let's see, liquidity staking. I'm going to look at the transaction to see if they provided liquidity or if they sold. Swap. So he sold them for almost 10 Ether. Or, sorry, no, for USDC. Went via Ether. So a quick $20,000.
How much did he initially put in?
It's actually a bit tricky to see. It's kind of annoying because this was the pool 2. And we only see the LP tokens. So yeah, you'd have to take this LP token unit and get the US dollar equivalent of it, which is a bit annoying.
Well, if we look at wallet profiler for LUSD for his account, we can check, no?
We can. That's a good idea. So we could just plug LUSD in here. You're so clever.
Gotta provide value somehow.
That's good. So now we're looking at the same address, but we care about their LUSD. We can see how much LUSD they put into the liquidity pool. Okay, interesting. So it's a little bit hard to read.
Well, it looks like they got 124K in LUSD at the beginning.
You're right. And then they were selling some of it, maybe?
Staking,
yeah.
Right? They were just testing the waters, probably.
Maybe. No, they were selling them because they were probably at a premium, right? So he was probably selling it at a high price.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, let's see here.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was imbalanced.
Yeah, look, 100, he was selling for 120. But gas cost is $50 though, so it doesn't really make sense. I mean, we don't mean to of course, dunk on anyone here. The guy made a lot of money. Actually,
maybe this is some pro move where he was rebalancing the pool kind of so that he would come in and not get in at a more favorable price.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he's smarter than us. Good chance. He probably is.
Yeah. So it doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah. So it looks like he dunked in 129,000 into this pool. That's kind of the transaction we're looking at, right? Because he minted it and then he put it into the pool and then he pulled it back out of the pool and then he put it back in it. So 129,000. Looks like he also got some more. And this is where he got some more, and then this is where he basically burnt them, right? He reclaimed his ether, I think. I'm guessing. I mean, we could also look at that if we want to, but it's a good example of you can kind of do almost like a case study because this guy obviously knows what he's doing, and so what did he do here? You can learn from the pros. But yeah, to answer your question, I think he was providing. Somewhere, it depends a bit, but somewhere between 130 to 160,000, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he bought some more over time.
Yeah, right. And so it'd be nice to, if we had unfortunately, we just have the token balance per day. If we had this per hour or minute, it would be more useful.
That would be actually quite useful. Even being able to switch between an hourly view or almost having not a candlestick chart, but how on the trading view, you can change your time parameters from 1 minute to 5 minute to hourly.
Yeah, definitely. We should get something like that. When we finally replace this view and we get something that looks better, we can do cool things like that. But right now we're a bit stuck. And so that's why we're migrating over everything to Nansen V2 coming soon. But yeah, so that to give you a sense, he probably, put in something between 130 and 160,000, and he got $20,000 in yields, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad for
that's not bad
for a couple days work.
Not even a couple of days. It's like he starts doing this stuff at 2 p.m. on April 5th UTC, and the morning after he's done, right? Pretty much. 20K overnight.
Probably to go buy a boat or something like that.
Yeah, and that's just this one pool, I think, right? Well, he's doing liquidity staking as well. Oh, maybe that's okay. Yeah,
I'd be curious to see once he got his USDC, what he did with his USDC. Like at the end, like where is he cycling these profits?
Oh yeah. Well, let's look at the USDC then. Now the way you do it is like you just have to. I mean, and I feel a bit bad like looking so much at like one person's address, but like it is the blockchain. It's public. That's life. But
you gotta pick a less cool ENS address if you don't want us to look at it.
Yeah, and if you're smart money, I mean, we're gonna try to learn your tricks. So the way you change tokens is by just plugging it up here into the URL. Also not super great user experience, but like you can just literally write in another token to look at what they're doing. And yeah, looks pretty active. $404,000 from Atomic Blue. Also, it looks like this one we have not tagged properly as an entity. Another one we're gonna have to take back and label afterwards. Please make a note so I can remember.
I haven't been making notes.
Okay. Yeah, they were quite big on big data protocol. 400K.
Wait, but can we sort by time and see what they did in the last couple days?
Yeah, let's do it. So now I'm sorting by time here, and there's a DS proxy that they're using. That's probably their own DS proxy, which is being used for either like some maker stuff or maybe something else that uses DS proxy. Do you see the 20K?
No, shouldn't we see the 20K? Oh, it's there. It's it says Uniswap V2 pool USDC wrapped ETH. That's this because one, yeah? It was proxied through, or not but it was routed through the wrapped ETH pool.
That's the trade. And okay, so swapping them for this and something else for something else. So maybe is he LPing here or withdraw? Okay. Oh, he withdrew some stuff from Curve. Maybe it's the same here. This one wasn't as well labeled. Oh, we bought some Ether. $256,000.
Slippage on that was not great.
I think also this reflects that the price has gone down a bit on Ether.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. Case study. Learn from the best.
There you go. Let's end it there.
Yeah. No. Anything else we should be looking at? I mean, just by the way, like if you thought this looks like a pro, you could set up some smart alerts for this address and get alerted whenever they do something. And maybe you'd discover the next big yield farm because they were pretty early into this one.
A couple questions in the chat. Number one, what is a DS proxy?
Yeah, DS proxy is like a smart contract that you interact through. It basically, there are some projects that require you to interact via a DS proxy address. And so some projects that kind of mine are MakerDAO and I think also Balancer. So for example, when you want to create a vault in MakerDAO, you have to create, or under the hood, a DS proxy address gets created for you. And I'm not 100% sure why, but one benefit is that you can more easily transfer like ownership, for example, of certain assets via the DS proxy. And so you could imagine, for example, yield farming with a DS proxy, and the DS proxy could then, in theory, be transferred to someone else, and then someone else would get the proceeds from the yield farming. So stuff like that. It's like a smart contract that you can proxy transactions through, and certain projects require them.
Wait, you're saying with a DS proxy, you can send the yields or like whatever the rewards to someone else?
I mean, so there's different ways that yield farms work, right? Like sometimes you get a token in return, and then the token is kind of what accrues the value over time. But there are other protocols or projects that, like, let's take Float protocol, which we talked about a few times. That doesn't give you any asset in return, because it's almost like the smart contract keeps, not almost like, but the smart contract keeps track of who has accrued how much yields, right? And the downside of that is that the yields kind of get linked to you as like the depositor into that contract. So if I have an address, 0xabc, and I deposit like $100,000 into, say, Float or something like that, then the yields that will accrue, they will accrue directly to my address. In theory, if I put a DS proxy in between, the yields could then accrue to the DS proxy, and the DS proxy could be transferred to someone else. But yeah, so I think this is what allows CDPs to be like collateralized debt positions, or vaults, as we call them these days. When I was young, we called them CDPs.
What era was that?
Yeah, it was sometime in the 90s. But basically,
dial up yield farms.
Yeah, were you born in the 90s or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can then transfer the CDPs or the vaults, because they are basically somehow connected to the DS proxy instead of your individual address.
The more you know.
Yeah. I might have made a lot of stuff up. I think
DYOR, everyone. Yeah. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, let's open it up to questions. If anyone in the chat has any questions about projects that they want us to look into, we have a healthy number of viewers right now. I think 33.
33.
Active, but a few have poked in over the session.
Good stuff.
There's that 20-second delay, so we just need to kind of like shoot the breeze for 20 seconds until until someone pipes up.
Yeah.
Can you do some stand up?
I can't.
Yeah.
Can you?
Let's hear it.
No, I can't. Like,
oh,
aren't you in New York City? Isn't that where like people do stand up?
Well, I came here to see other people do it, not do it myself.
That makes sense. Yeah. You should like learn some of the Seinfeld jokes.
Yeah.
What
no.
No, probably not. Yeah. Excruciating 20 seconds, I must say. And we don't even know if anyone's got any questions.
I do. Crypto I asks, do you have plans to offer yearly subscriptions on the higher tier Nansen plans? I'll field that one. Yes. In fact, currently you just need to ping us and we can set that up for you. We'll probably put that on the website soon. For example, a yearly price for the VIP. And then soon we'll be rolling out the next iteration of the alpha tier. So we're pretty excited for that. I don't want to alpha leak just yet on it, but we'll make some announcements soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Soon?
Yeah.
How soon?
TM. Soon.
TM. Okay. I think it is pretty soon though, right? Like it's not like okay.
Well, I've been thinking about like how to actually like phase it in, just because there's quite a bit of demand for it, and for anyone who's not familiar with the alpha tier, something we rolled out back in December. We rolled out a thing called the War Room, where every week we have weekly calls with top traders in crypto, basically, ex-poker pros, some fund managers, things like that. And these are all Nansen power users. So we kind of discuss some of the on-chain flows and find new opportunities. And that's really grown over the past few months. And so the quest has been, how can we create value as we scale up? And so this next iteration of the alpha tier is creating kind of a scalable version of that, so we can continue to provide value for people who sign up for that tier.
Nice. So what's the call to action there? What should people do?
Wait patiently until we start rolling things out. I would say if you're interested, put your name on the wait list on the website. So at nansen.ai/plans, and then just plug your email address into the wait list, and I'll send out some information directly to your email soon.
Nice, very good stuff. Any other questions in the chat? If not, maybe I can do some alpha leaks for my lunch with Suzu.
Well, there are some questions in the chat, but now that you've offered that, I think you can't dangle that carrot.
Well, the main takeaway is that ETH is going to 5K.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Although Kyle is psyopsing now on Twitter. Kyle is starting to talk about Bitcoin more again. I feel like they do like a little psyops dance on Twitter. Like Kyle goes heavy on BTC. Sue is doing more like event based stuff.
Yeah,
like he think
there's a good chance the whole lunch was psyops, right? And he knew that we were gonna do the office hours, and like everyone's gonna get psyops.
Some 3D chess. I liked his poker face in that picture.
Yeah, it was quite good. Very nice guy though. Like super nice, all of them. Yeah. Arthur, Kyle, Zuzu, like all of them, very, very nice and friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Good people.
Meow2P asks, any plans Nansen will expand to other OG coins? I'm guessing he's including like BSC or something like that as an OG coin. Meow2, would you mind giving some more clarification on what other OG coins you'd like us to cover? Maybe Bitcoin.
Maybe I can just comment briefly on like other chains. So the thinking is that, we're very focused on Ethereum right now, and we think that it makes sense for us to expand to what you might consider Ethereum adjacent chains. And so that includes the L2s, of course, Optimism, Arbitrum, Starkware, Loopring, ZK Sync. And so we're actively working on ingesting data for these L2 solutions. It also includes side chains like Polygon or Matic. I was kind of confused by the naming here. It turns out like Polygon is the overall project, but Matic is still the name of the sidechain. So yeah, we're working on integrating with Matic as well, and then BSC too is coming this quarter. I don't know how fast, but within this quarter we're going to ship it. It's not trivial how to actually like include these things in the product, because there's a couple of different ways to do it. You could imagine having just separate versions of Nansen, like bsc.nansen.ai or optimism.nansen.ai. Or you could think, hey, why don't we actually create more like an overview where everything's kind of blended together? Like if you wanted to see synthetics or SNX, you get to see all this SNX like sitting in Matic, sitting in Optimism, sitting on L1. That's like a different strategy. And so we have to think through from a product perspective, like how to do this in a good way. And we would definitely welcome any feedback or thoughts you have on like how you would want to see L2 data in Nansen. So definitely just ping us in Discord if you're up for doing like a 30-minute call with our team, and we can get some input from you on how you might want to see L2 data and sidechain data and BSC data in the product. But then, after we've done kind of the Ethereum adjacent ones, there's actually quite a few more, like EVM compatible chains and chains that connect directly to Ethereum through bridges. Like I saw Near Protocol set up a new bridge now. I spoke to the CeeLo team this morning. They're doing some really cool stuff with like mobile identities, like basically associating your phone number to an address. And so that's really exciting. I think we probably will do something with them. But yeah, we're gonna have a strong focus on like Ethereum adjacent chains, because we think that's where most of the organic user activity still is and the developer activity. And then, there are some people asking for like Solana, Avalanche, of course, Bitcoin. But these are, kind of different beasts. The good thing about the Ethereum adjacent chains, by the way, is that obviously the Ethereum users will kind of go into those chains. So that makes sense for us to focus on them, because our users will be doing that. But the other thing is that the data formats are pretty much identical across many of these adjacent chains or L2s. And that means it's easier for us to like ingest the data and build dashboards on them and make aggregations and analyses, and also heuristics for wallet labeling. But other chains like BTC has like a totally different structure. So if you wanted to do attribution or wallet labeling for Bitcoin, it's a totally different beast. And probably similar with like Solana and many of these other chains. So that's a long answer to the question that maybe he answered about other chains.
Yeah, he said Bitcoin, Litecoin, and XMR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so honestly, I don't think we're going to do Bitcoin anytime soon. Probably the same with Litecoin, and probably the same with XMR, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I don't think it's coming in the next 6 months at least, maybe after that.
All right. Next question is, what value do you provide for the little guy? And I'll caveat this question by saying earlier in the chat, this guy said, I was looking at boats online last night. So I'm not sure what he means by the little guy, but maybe we can answer that of like, what is the value for Nansen at different kind of portfolio sizes, and when does it make sense to invest in a Nansen subscription?
Yeah, so I think the definition of little guy might have changed in the last 12 months, especially in crypto. But the cheapest tier we have is like $150 a month, and so you obviously can't guarantee anything, but there is if you're active in like yield farming or token trading, there is a good chance, we can't guarantee anything, but there's a chance, at least anecdotally, that you might be able to find something in our platform that you can either trade on or use to farm, and at the very least earn back the $150 that you spent on the subscription, hopefully many times over. So primarily it's there are three main use cases for Nansen. The first is to discover new opportunities, tokens to acquire, yield farms to ape into, etc. And the second is to do some due diligence on those. For example, seeing who else is in a yield farm or who else has been accumulating a token, and then that can help your investment decision. And the third is to use or to focus on defense. So once you are in a yield farm, once you bought a token, you can set up on-chain alerts, and you can get notified if there are large trades happening. For example, if some coins are being dunked into an exchange, you can get notifications. So those are like the main three like value propositions where Nansen is useful, and it's kind of throughout the whole investment cycle, and that is true both for small investors and much larger investors and market makers that also use Nansen. And then the trial is only $9 for 7 days, so it's definitely worth checking that out at the very least. And I should also mention there are some dashboards that are actually free. These are not typically very alpha leaking, but at least you have a chance to see what kind of data is included in the Nansen platform. So I can give you 2 examples. The first one is a dashboard on Lido, which is a ETH2 staking project. And you can find it at pro.nansen.ai/Lido. That's LIDO. And the other dashboard, which is quite cool as well, is the gas tracker dashboard. And so you can find us at pro.nansen.ai/gas-tracker. So gas tracker. And that shows you, basically it shows you why the gas price is high, because you can see which entities are spending gas and which smart contract-based projects are consuming the gas. So those are at least 2 dashboards you can check out, which are free.
Adding on to that a little bit in a couple places. One is, as a disclaimer, since now your Nansen.eth address is doxed, there is Lido in that wallet. So just
That's right.
Disclaimer to people.
Thanks. Thanks for that. For me.
Yeah. The second thing is, in terms of like the due diligence component, so that second piece, we try and be as kind of vertically integrated as possible along the investment cycle. However, there's a lot of times where you'll find a new project being shilled on Twitter, for example, or in some Discord channels, and you want to see, like, is this legit? Are they just like pumping their bags, or is there actual traction going on here?
Yeah.
And so when you find a project elsewhere and you want to check if it's legit, that's where that second piece comes in. And a lot of people will benefit from not aping into a coin, just by double checking on Nansen. So sometimes, like, the best trade is not trading at all. And as long as you can kind of get the right signals from any kind of project that's being shilled, hopefully it provides value.
Yeah, I just also want to give one warning, because I've seen at least a couple of people kind of fall for this scam. There is a way that you can make trades on certain dexes, notably Uniswap, where you can basically buy some tokens and then specify a different receiving address. So let's say I'm buying Wi-Fi tokens on Uniswap, and I can say, hey, I want Daniel's wallet to receive the Wi-Fi tokens that I'm buying. And there are scammers that do this with their own shitcoins that they create and put into Uniswap pools. But they basically redirect these shitcoins to smart money addresses. And so you have to be a bit careful when you look at some of the dashboards, that sometimes it might look like a smart money address is buying tokens on Uniswap, but it's actually kind of being redirected from someone else. And I think this is something that we might have to, try to make a bit clearer in some of the dashboards. One way that I would, there's 2 ways to maybe, make sure that you don't fall for the scam. The first one is to try to look at the transactions themselves, and you can see if the sender of the transaction is different from the recipient of the tokens. That's a pretty easy one to check. And then generally, if there are transactions being made by the smart money address themselves, that has to be this, that address that does it. That can't be controlled by anyone else. So if you see someone depositing funds into a yield farm, it's them, because no one else can control that the tokens are going, from their wallet into a yield farm. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out, because I think we've seen some people that kind of ape into the trial for Nansen, and then they fall for a scam like that. And of course, that's a terrible user experience. So just be a bit careful with that when you're looking at stuff you find in the dashboards. Try to look at it from different angles, and don't just rush into stuff that you see just because there's some smart money address that seemingly is picking up some token.
Good point. Final question before we wrap things up. Any plans on an API?
Yes, we are building an institutional grade API. This quarter. And it should be live at the end of the quarter as well.
There you go. All right. Any final notes for the good people watching?
No, I think this was a pretty productive session. Hope people enjoyed the deep dive into Liquidity. And you should join our Discord channel if you're not already there. And follow us on Twitter, Nansen_AI. And see you in the next one.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. Catch you later.